And the interim superintendent at TPS was just given, I think, a 5-year contract. Dr. Durant is a proud graduate, I think, of Wade High School. Is that right?
That's correct.
Continuing that dedication and tradition of serving on TPS now by becoming its superintendent. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate
know
being
you're a
on.
really popular guy these days.
That's what they tell me.
Well, I'm glad you could spend a few minutes with us today. So, you guys are like the 4th largest district in the state. Is that right?
That is correct.
24,000 students or so. Is that enrollment coming up? I know you've had a little issue.
You know what? This year was the first year that out of the past 5 or 6 years that we actually maintained and held steady. So, you know, many of the things that we've done in recruitment, retention, as well as some of the transformation ideas that we brought forward had helped to level and maintain in regard to our current enrollment. And now we're continuing to phase in much more of the transformation plan, and hopefully we can continue to build upon our capacity.
Is that a TPS monogram on your shirt collar?
Oh yeah.
You already, and on your shirt says you got the contract. It's okay now.
I tell people they're on every shirt, and I always tell the community is that if you truly love what you do, you have no problem wearing it on your sleeve.
Well,
and so I wear it on my collar, my sleeve, and
a bracelet,
and
a
a bracelet,
TPS
bracelet, and a pin, and everything else. So,
so no reason to doubt your dedication.
Right.
Maybe your fashion sense, but not your dedication, right?
right.
Okay, so the district is transforming. Some of the plans that you've had for the district are working, and the enrollment is getting better. But a lot of those things happen before your influence at the school. So can you talk to us a little bit about where you see TPS moving next year?
Well, remember, many of the things that happened under a transformation plan. That was myself and 2 other gentlemen in the cabinet, along with the Board of Education at the current time. So, you know,
when was that plan developed, Doctor?
It was developed about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So again, it was something that we spent our entire winter break clearly laying out some of the most innovative thoughts, as well as taking a look at other initiatives in other school districts, and began to look at in regards to what's in the concurrent budget, what can we work with, provide to the community that we could portray and lay out what's in 3 years of time, and what could we do in 5 years of time. And so we're actually now seeing the results of those implementations. And so when we begin to look at the state report card and other aspects, when you start talking about in regard to our inclusion, what we do with our special needs students, we were 1 of 2 in this area, along with very few across the state that have an A grade within that. In regard to how we service our students and what's in the transformation plan, we want about inclusion for students with IEPs, which is an individual education plan. And those students are serviced now within the regular peer group. So we saw—
That was not true before?
Before, if they were in LD, DD, whatever their category was, they were contained within those classrooms with other LD or DD students. Now they're being serviced amongst their regular peers.
LD and DD refers to classifications of students that need a little extra attention in the learning process.
That is correct.
Right, and now those students have been integrated into the general milieu. Is that what you're saying?
That is correct. And so the way we go about servicing is much more different, opposed to in a classroom setting among similar peers. They're actually within their peer group in a typical classroom, and they provided supports within that classroom.
So what do you think the most powerful piece of the transformation plan is?
You know what, there's not just one, it's a collection. I mean, obviously a big one is going back to K-8. Understand, we transformed the entire school district, eliminating middle school and junior high back to K-8. Immediately within that school year of the first year, we saw a huge growth in parental involvement at Parent-Teachers Conference, which showed a 30 to 60% increase. As we phased into the 3rd year of 1 year of existing of transformation plan, we've seen a huge return in regard to not only parental involvement, but also suspension. 60 to 70% suspension rate decreased in 6th, 7th, and 8th. At the same time, we talk about—
What happened to make that happen? Because I remember that was a major issue with folks who are community activists like Twyla Page and Steve Flagg. They were always concerned about the level of suspension. What did you do differently?
Well, I think one of the things when you speak of gentlemen, Mr. Flagg as well as Ms. Twyla Page, is those individuals became individuals we went to and sat down and had discussions and dialogue. But more importantly, what changes is the culture. It developed a community type approach. When you're talking about a child who's in K-8, understand the parents have a relationship with teachers within that building. You may have students who were there for kindergarten, 1st grade, and when they're in 8th grade, understand there is a volume of teachers who at one point in time had you as a student, but more importantly had a relationship with your parent. And so those are the things in regard to providing a school, collective school in regard to one, servicing students, two, making sure that they're working with the students, but three, the parents having an ongoing continuum of a relationship with the principal, as well as teachers who are within that building.
Well, and congratulations for increasing your parent involvement. But when the group Evergreen, what is it? Evergreen Solutions came in and they conducted your audit, and that report was given to you guys just this year, as I recall, or 2013, just this year. The one of the recommendations that they made was that you further increase your community involvement. So even though it's good, it needs to get better?
Well, I think in any school district, parental involvement is always an item wanting to improve upon in regards as much as possible. So one of the things is we want to make sure that we continue to have a friendly environment. So when you have a K-8, you're talking about parents who are continuing on with relationships that they've developed in the beginning stages. At the same time, when you talk about middle school, you're only talking about 3 grade levels that a parent all of a sudden is embedded and trying to develop a quick relationship, and before you know it, they're on to high school. And so with this K-8, you're talking about a continuum of 8 years of working with principals, working with teachers, as well as just getting an understanding of the system of the school itself. So, you know, those are some of the things that we saw as positive in regard to parent-teacher conferences. But one of the most impact things that we saw was value added. 6th, 7th, and 8th used to be our lowest performance in regard to growth. This year, in regard to a full, complete year of the implementation, is our largest group in value-added growth.
Let's talk about performance for a second for your students. That is, I'm sure that that's true, but you can't deny that there are still some struggles. Your black boys are still struggling in terms of achievement, overall achievement, big picture achievement, and graduation. The same is true for kids of Hispanic descent. So is there a plan to address these issues? It's been an ongoing problem within the district. The district's countrywide. I mean, it's not just a TPS issue by any means. Any special
Well, I mean, I
plans?
guess you raised a good point. Like I tell people, is that this is not
really hard
this is not an educational issue. This is a national, not a Toledo issue. It's a national issue as well as.
But it's not an educational issue.
Let's break it down. It's a community issue because understand when I say this is a collective problem in regard to the community itself. So let's have a conversation in regard to students when they come to school. Is that do you understand many of the students what you're talking in regard to describing the demographic implications are when they start kindergarten off, these kids are identifying intensive intervention before they even receive 1 ounce of teaching.
In your system?
Well, in regard to across the country, when you're talking about the impoverished neighborhoods, is that when you look at the kindergarten readiness assessment, the assessment is showing kids who are needing intensive interventions before day 1. And so understanding that in regard to starting them off on the wrong track, the reality, that's why we moved heavily on early Head Start and Head Start, because the achievement gap started at 9 months of age. If we're waiting till they're 6 years of age, that's 6 years you're trying to replace in regard to compensate of lost value in education. And so when you have 9 months of age where it can be identified, at 6 months of age, they're showing, or 2 years of age, they're showing 6 months of achievement gap. We begin to realize that the best intervention is prevention, and it starts that early on.
Well, how do you integrate that into the school systems? I understand that you're doing, you've engaged in Head Start, supportive Head Start. You guys have applied for the Head Start grant,
Yes.
Is that true?
We have a Head Start proposal that went out a week prior, but the due date was on December 2nd. We have a community approach to Head Start and early Head Start. We have 2 delegates, what we call, in regard to, we have Family Council, who are servicing kids from the age of prenatal to 3. Ourselves, along with WSOS, are servicing the kids between 3 to 5. We have our kindergarten teachers, who are representatives of them, are part of the proposal in regard to the dialogue, in regard to understanding we're going from prenatal to kindergarten. The next year will be 1st grade, and the following year will be 2nd grade. So we have a continuum between prenatal to 2nd grade in regard to a continuum of continuity of data, but more importantly, getting an assessment of kids that they progress through. The biggest problem that I can say is the Head Start grant is only $12.3 million, which only allows us to service 1,700 kids out of a total of 10,000 eligible.
Okay. All right. So we take that intervention as part of your overall strategy to manage these kids and to drive them into a more successful educational opportunity within TPS. Are you identifying these children early on and providing them special attention, or other than your interaction with the Head Start program or your implementation of the Head Start program within TPS, what are the plans? What's your plan, your administration's plan for increasing the graduation rate of these kids?
Well, in regards to what we have,
Because you're not getting them all in Head Start. I mean,
no,
Head Start
no.
is
The reality is you got two different tracks. You got a preventive track, and then you got an intervention track.
Okay.
The preventive is what we're talking about in regards to.
So let's talk about the intervention.
The interventive track in regards to is talking about, one, taking a look at the data analysis. So we look at our STAR assessment, and we look some of it in regard to the SM4, which is Success Maker, as well as the prior year. We use those systems in regard to getting a sense of where kids are weak at. And what we developed was a comprehensive education plan in regard to, one, identifying skill sets, which are standards that are indicative of progress, but more importantly, impacting kids in regard to progressing to the next grade level. So what we did was we developed grade bands, identifying key indicators within those grade bands that as a district, what we call DLT, District Leadership Team, we monitor the assessments, and then we send it right back down to the building level. And the building level sends it down to the grade level in regard to working on those specific interventions within those grade bands. But the more
for
important,
those specific children, or
for
the
those
entire
specific children. Well, you have grade bands regarding that's reflective of the grade levels, but then as well we have individual, which we call teacher-based teams, which it drills right down into the classroom.
to that child, to that
exactly.
classroom. Okay, hold that thought. I'd like to talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
that when we come back. We got to go away for just a second, but please stay with us.